What's up, YouTube? Spring Fever back again this week, and this week we're going to cover some mouth call basics and some of the benefits. First off, I'd like to thank everybody that came through this past weekend at our hometown, Indianapolis, during Turkey Expo. We had a lot of people come through the booth. Matt Dale was there. We just had a good time this weekend and got to meet a lot of new people and see a lot of familiar faces who came through the booth this past weekend at Indy. EP, you want to start us out with some of the benefits of being able to use a mouth call?
Yeah, some of the benefits, it's going to be, say I'm out there in the field, I always start out with a pot call. Whenever I sit down, I'll start out with a pot call, and it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm calling a bird in for somebody else, I'm going to be sitting back probably 5 to 10 yards farther than where I'm going to have somebody sitting along the field waiting to kill one. But I'll start out with a pot call. Bird comes out in the field, he gets closer. I want to switch over to a mouth call. Mouth call is going to be very beneficial. Less movement. I got my eyes on the target the whole time, not moving my hands, not looking down, and I can run that mouth call the whole time while he's coming in.
Yeah, and that's commonly referred to as the changeover or switch over. I think Matt Dale did a video on it last year, and you know it is super handy. You might strike that gobbler up with a pot call or a box call, something that's going to travel a little bit farther where you're not blowing the guts out of a mouth call. And then once you get him coming and he's kind of made that break, we tend to like to switch over or change over to a hands-free mouth call. So what's some other benefits you have?
Other benefits is if it's a rainy day, you go out in the field, it's got dew, rain. You always got that water striker you could use, but a benefit would be the mouth call. You can use the mouth call the whole time. You got the benefits of the cluck, the purr. You got everything that you would on a pot call in a mouth call.
Yeah, I think another huge benefit for me is, you know, we take kids all the time. I know you've taken your little brothers and stuff multiple times, and when those kids are young and maybe we're starting out in a blind or even when you move out of a blind and maybe that kid needs a little bit more help, hands-on, you can actually work with him a little bit with your hands trying to get him maneuvered or maybe having to help prop the gun up. I've had to do that a couple times. You know, there's times where I've needed that turkey to break strut or something like that to get a good clean shot, and instead of having to take my hands off and run a pot call or a box call, I always have my mouth call in and I can cluck at him or purr at him or you know, yelp at him real hard to get him to raise his head up to make that shot happen. So there are some major benefits to being able to operate a mouth call. The sad thing is a lot of people struggle with the mouth call, and I think part of that is just not knowing what to look for when they get started into mouth calling. We talked last time about waterproof pot calls and how some people fall into some marketing traps. Well, you can do that with a mouth call too. You know, I mean, they come out with all these, you know, different tape colors, latex colors, and all these different reeds and cuts. And, you know, yeah, some of that's a help, but some of it can be a hindrance too, because you can walk into a store and just fall into that marketing trap and buy something that you don't necessarily need. For us here at Spring Fever, our initial starting call that we like to start people out on is a 2-reed call. You want to kind of go over the benefits of a 2-reed call with them?
The benefits of a 2-reed call opposed to the other mouth calls is less air you have to blow for it to make better sound in the field opposed to the others.
Yeah, I mean, the more reeds that call's built with, you know, we build mouth calls 3-4 reed. The more layers of latex, the more air it's going to take to operate that call. You know, sometimes when it's early in the morning and he's just waking up, or you've moved in close on him and you're trying to call softly, if that call takes a ton of air to blow, that can be a big hindrance. Me personally, I carry a 2-reed mouth call with me all the time. It's just less air to operate, and you're not going to become fatigued that fast. I mean, if you've worked a bird for 2 hours or whatever and you've blown on that mouth call the entire time, you're exhausted by the time you're done. So we offer multiple different cuts, and this first one here is a 2-reed call, and the ends are snipped, and the cuts on the top just affect the raspiness of the call. The second one here, this blue one, is a V cut, and that's also a 2-reed call. That's my favorite call. It doesn't take a whole lot of air, but the V cut gives it that rasp that you're looking for. The next one is a batwing cut. That's a 3-reed call for us. Another 3-reed call is our ghost cut, which is yellow, and the last one there is a cutter and it's called a cutter because it's got a big chunk cut out of the corner, and that's a 3-reed call as well. Which one do you prefer? I know you're a mouth call guy.
It's gonna be the easiest one for me. I prefer the 2-reed one. It's a lot easier. It took me about 1.5 years just to get used to a mouth call. I sat in a living room. My mom was home. I'd play and play and play until she told me to go to another room. But it took me 1.5 years just to get used to a call. But I'd have to go with one of the easiest ones. I'm still a little rusty on it, but I can call.
Yeah, I mean,
really
you
well.
can hold your own, with the turkeys. And when you say 2-reed call, you're talking about this green one, right?
Yeah.
That's the one that you prefer to.
Yeah.
That you prefer to call with, and that's just a straight reed call, and the sides of it we snip to add just a little bit of rasp there on the end of your yelp. And these calls, mouth calls, are going to be different for everybody. Your mouth's shaped different than the next guy's.
May have to trim it.
Yeah, you may have to trim some of your tape or whatever to get it to fit right and to get the sound you're looking for. Matt Dale, one of our pro staffers, he's in love with that ghost cut, and he's a big ghost cut guy. And then you see a lot of call competition guys that are running ghost cuts and so on. So me personally, that's just not my go-to. So I stick with the V cut. I'm just, for some reason, my air channel pushes and likes a V cut. So you're gonna have to buy multiple different calls, try them out to find which one actually fits you, and that's, once you find the one, you find the cut that you work well with, then you'll just keep going back and buying those over and over again, because they just don't fail. That's another thing I want to talk about tonight, is kind of the care of a mouth call. You're putting it in your mouth, you're taking it out of your mouth. It's a wet, damp area, and you're putting it in your mouth. So there's some guys that just completely, kind of gross me out. They keep them in their pockets or whatever.
I'm that guy.
Yeah, what a weirdo. So don't do that. When you buy a mouth call, it comes with a hard case, and you can see ours are in a snap case. One of the best ways to keep them is to put them in your refrigerator after you're done. And when you put them in the refrigerator, it's just like opening a pop and not drinking the whole thing. You stick it in the refrigerator. It keeps that bacteria from forming for so long. The reeds, you can stick like a toothpick or something small up in between the different layers of latex to try to get air up into them so they dry and doesn't allow bacteria to form, and place them in the refrigerator so they last a little bit longer. At the end of the year, people always ask me, what do you do with your mouth calls at the end of the year? Me personally, I pitch mine. The latex is eventually going to dry rot, and that's the last thing I want to do, is throw one in my mouth and have the latex, snap or whatever, and it end up down my throat.
That has happened to me before. So.
Yeah, so I just throw them away at the end of the year. Our mouth calls are relatively inexpensive. You're talking, $6.50 on the website. I just pick up a new one every year, and once you find the one you like, that's probably the one you're going to run anyway, the majority of the time. So that's kind of a little bit about mouth call care. If you don't have a refrigerator, or maybe you're hunting and you're staying in the back of your truck or whatever, and you're running and gunning on public land and doing like a camp thing, you always have a cooler. You have, you're keeping something to drink and your food in a cooler. Throw them in the cooler just so that it keeps that bacteria from forming and making you grow like a third eye later on or something. Yeah. So that's what I would suggest. So a lot of people come up to me at the show and they say, I'm new to turkey hunting, I don't know exactly what call to do or use, and we point them kind of to a 2-reed call starting out. A mouth call, the way it operates is, I have one of mine here. The way it operates is the tape itself is a seal. And that tape is going to be pushed up against the roof of your mouth, and it is going to block the air from going up and around that call. Your cut, whatever cut you have, will face up. And then the other thing is the open end of the call will go towards the out of your mouth. So it should be the cut latex up and the open part facing out in order to get the proper sound. A lot of people, they don't even know how to get a sound. And they put it in their mouth, and you've heard those stories of saying chuck, and chuck,
cluck,
and
cluck, cluck.
And cluck. Realistically, you're not really saying those words. You're just going through those motions of saying that in order to get the right sound. And what I tell people is put it in your mouth, and you need to get it wet.
Yeah.
Right?
It's got to be moist and wet, and in order for it to work correctly.
For it to sound right. So if you throw a mouth call in your mouth and it's dry, it's not going to sound the way it's supposed to sound, or it's going to sound when it becomes wet, rolling around in your mouth for an hour. So you want to put it in your mouth, get used to having something in your mouth, make sure you're not choking on it. Once it becomes, a little bit wet, you're going to put your tongue up on the bottom of the latex and just blow out and try to get a sound. And once you get it to make that sound, you're going to start dropping your jaw, saying cluck, because when you say cluck, you're opening your mouth and you're dropping your jaw. And what that does is a hen, she starts off high pitch and then she rolls off raspy. By dropping your jaw, that's giving you're releasing your tongue from the call, and it's allowing that rasp to come out at the end of her yell. Okay, so I'm going to try and demonstrate this. It's usually EP doing our demonstrations tonight, but luckily I drew the short stick. So here we go. So like I said, at first, just put it in your mouth, let the call get wet, and then you're going to blow out, try to get a sound, and drop your jaw. So once you get that call to make the sound, start dropping your jaw. And then you're just going to speed that whole process up until it turns into a hen yell. I'll do it one more time. So that's how you create that realistic hen sound. And, a mouth call's been a game changer for me once I learned how to run it. There's been a lot of turkeys fall victim to a spring fever mouth call. So, it's something that I would not give up on. It is something that once you get it, it is an amazing tool to have in your pocket and to be able to put some long beards on the ground.
Very helpful in the field. Once you get the hang of it, it will help you out in the long run. Absolutely.
I think that's it for this week.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed the show and you learned something new about mouth calls. Remember, put your next long beard on speed dial with a Spring Fever custom call, and we'll see you guys next week.